Welcome to the Cambridge Financial Podcast with Bert Salazar, CEO at Cambridge Financial Partners, LLC. This podcast is all about tax-preferred retirement planning, economics, financial risk management, and achieving a risk-free and successful financial life. Now, your host, Bert Salazar. Bert Salazar. Bert Salazar.
Hey, once again, good day, everyone. Welcome to the Your Tax-Free Life podcast. I'm hoping that all of you are staying healthy and staying safe and maintaining the safe distancing and so forth. So I'm excited to be here with you once again today, as I am every week. This is the 123rd episode of Your Tax-Free Life. So again, thanks very much for being a faithful follower. So I'm excited to have you on as part of our team. And today's episode, the title is How to Take Longevity Risk Off the Table. And this is one question that I get more often than not. As you all know, I give you all the opportunity to call me and send me emails after each and every one of the podcasts that I do on a weekly basis. And I do get, and thank you once again for those of you that are supporting the calls and sending your questions and Q&A and so forth. But I do get this question quite often, and it all goes back to longevity planning. It all goes back to making certain that you and your family are able to take the risk of longevity off the table and take it for good. Now the challenge is that most of you are not doing a very good job at this. So once again, I want to take a few minutes of your time and kind of walk you through the importance of knowing how to take longevity risk off the table and to implement and to execute the process in order to minimize your retirement liabilities at some point in time in the future. So let's talk a little bit about the risk of living too long, which is one of the four in the fatal four, as you may recall, the risk of dying too soon, living too long, living with a disability, and living with eroding factors. One of the things that I can tell you about, the importance of taking longevity off the table is that if you live a long life, chances are everything is going to happen to you. So the longer you're going to live in retirement, the more propensity you're going to have major challenges that both you and your family are going to have to deal with. So when talking about the risk of living too long, think of it as this way. Retirement is a 3-decade challenge that must be addressed. So most of the clients that come in to see me once I do my tactical retirement blueprint for them, the recommendation is to set up retirement distribution planning for 3 decades in retirement. So if you're married and you're retiring at the age of 65, you have to be able to plan for 3 decades, taking you through age 95. Now, some of you may be living longer. This past Saturday, I went to a birthday party we had some social distancing, and everybody was wearing a mask, and we keeping the distance. And it's one of my closest friends, and also one of my top clients, and he just turned on Thursday of last week, but we celebrated on Saturday. He turned 88 years of age, and he's in great shape. He's in great spirits. He walks 3 miles every day, goes to the gym 3 times a day, and he's probably going to live another 10, 12 years in retirement. I hope he lives longer than that. And his mental aptitude is at the very, very best. So you have to plan for 3 decades in retirement if you want to do a good job. Anything less than 3 decades, now you're making a bet. Now you're playing Russian roulette with real bullets. And that's not a game that you want to play, and that's definitely not a game you want to put your family through. Also remember that longevity is going to impact your savings and your retirement expenses, and that's something that you need to address and you need to explore. Now, along with longevity risk, if you want to take the risk of longevity off the table, you have to do a number of things. You have to worry about where your retirement assets are situated. How much money are you taking out of your retirement accounts on a monthly basis? in order to maintain your standard of living, you're going to have to not only worry about longevity risk, which is the risk of running out of money before you run out of life. And if you don't do a good job at that, then your retirement life is going to be based on fear. But not only are you going to have to worry about not running out of money before you run out of life, you're going to have to worry about the withdrawal rate risk. Are you taking too much at a given point in time, or are you taking too little? If you're taking too much, then you're definitely going to run out of money before you run out of life. And if you're taking too little, then you're really not going to have an enjoyable retirement, which is something that you wanted to do and wanted to have to begin with. You're also going to have to worry about the sequencing of return. Are you taking money out of your accounts at the right time or at the wrong time? Are you taking money out of your account when the market is heading north and doing well? Or are you taking money out of your retirement accounts when the market is not doing well and heading south? In any event, if you have to maintain your standard of living, you truly have no control as to when you need to take money out, because you have to, pay bills and maintain your standard of living every month. So you may be forced to dip into accounts that are losing value in order to maintain your standard of living. And then obviously, last but not least, would be inflation risk. So when you look at, taking a lot of these risks off the table, and you look at longevity, withdrawal rate risk, the sequencing of return risk, and inflation risk, you can obviously understand why it is so important to make certain that you do your due diligence and you do it now. You don't want to wait till tomorrow or the next day. You want to do it today, because every day that passes is going to become a lot more challenging for you to be able to take the risk of longevity off the table for good. Now, one of the challenges that I have with clients is that they really don't have the ability to gauge inflation and inflation risk. And the reason for that is inflation is a silent killer. Most Americans do not pay attention to this major risk because they don't realize that everything is going to cost more in the future. Now, you may know that subconsciously, but you have to bring it to the conscious view in order for you to understand the impact of inflation and what that impact is going to do to your retirement distribution planning for many years to come, especially if you're planning for 3 decades in retirement. Now, inflationary trends on purchasing power is very critical, because the higher the inflation rate it is in the future, and it's not only the annual inflation rate, it's the compounding effect of that inflation rate, because if you get 3% next year and then 3% next year, well, if it's $100 of inflation, then this year it's going to cost you $103 in order to stay ahead of inflation. But next year is going to be $103 times 3%. So inflation is also compounding on itself, and is making it more and more challenging for you and your family to maintain your standard of living. Therefore, you're going to need more money every single year in order to buy the same amount of goods and services that you could today. The other thing that you need to worry about when it comes to longevity planning and taking longevity off the table, and some of it, you have control of, and others you may not. One that you may not necessarily have any control over is your mental acuity. Will you be as sharp 30 years from now as you are today? Well, chances are you're not going to be. Now, for some of you, like my 88-year-old friend that I went to his birthday party this past weekend, he's still very sharp. But I can tell you he's not as sharp as when he was 65 or 68 years of age. So what's going to be your mental acuity, let's say 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, 20, 25, 30 years? And what impact is that going to have on your decision-making process? Also, what kind of accounts do you have? Do you have accounts that are so complex that only you or someone with a tremendous amount of knowledge is going to be able to manage for you and your family in retirement? I am one that feels very strongly that simplicity brings you a tremendous amount of value. So the more simplicity and the more guarantees you have in retirement, the better off you and your family are going to be over the long term. Now, when it comes to your mental acuity, who's going to be your financial successor? Will you have a need for long-term care? What are the chances for you and your family? Let's say you're married and you're 65 years of age. Actually, if you're married and you're 65 years of age, there's anywhere between a 70 and a 75% probability that one of you is going to have a need for long-term care. So therefore, how will that impact your finances? Who's going to pay for the care? How's the additional expenses going to cover? Are you going to have no choice but to dip more and more into your retirement assets in order to cover the additional expenses? And now when you start to factor in inflation, and you start to factor in the withdrawal rate risk and the sequencing of return risk, then obviously you can understand the kind of impact that they can have on your retirement accounts. Always remember that if you don't know whether you're going to have a guaranteed paycheck in retirement or not in the near future, and that could be next month from now, a month from now, then you're going to have to be extremely frugal to the point that you're really not going to enjoy your retirement, because every single financial decision you're going to make is going to be based on fear. And what is that fear? Well, the fear of running out of money before you run out of life. So therefore, by not utilizing the benefits of planning, then you're giving fear an opportunity to get into your life and that of your family, where now you're going to be totally destitute when it comes to your mental aptitude and your retirement benefits, because you're going to be so fearful as to taking too much at any given point in time that you're not going to be able to live a very comfortable retirement life. Now, if you do have a need for long-term care, once again, what are the chances, and how will it impact your finances, and how will you pay for it? Those are things that most Americans don't pay attention to. Those are things that just about every single client that visits with me on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, or whenever I engage a new client and I do a tactical retirement blueprint, they're amazed as to the fact that no one else had ever talked to them about these challenges that they're bound to face at some point in time in the future, because of the lack of proper planning that they have had up until the time that they visit with me. So again, taking longevity off the table is going to be very, very critical. Now, the next question is, well, we understand how critical it is to take it off the table, but how do we do so? What are the steps that I need to start taking today in order to be able to take longevity risk, withdrawal rate risk, sequencing or return risk, and inflation risk off the table? By the way, if you're able to take those off the table and get them on your side of the ledger, then you and your family are going to have a very successful life. Now, obviously, there's always a risk of dying too soon, but hopefully you have done proper due diligence and have protected yourself and your family in case that demise were to happen sooner than expected. So how do you take all of these risks off the table? Well, annuities, period. That's it. There's nothing else that's going to help you. Now, if you're a multimillionaire, then obviously you have a little bit less to worry about. But annuities are going to help you take a lot of these major risks, and that all of us are going to be facing, hopefully in the future, are going to be able to help you take it off the table. And the reason for that, and I feel very strongly about this, is that Americans need to have guaranteed paychecks in retirement. Period. That's it. Nothing else. When it comes to retirement distribution planning, it's all about guaranteed cash flow. It's not about the value of your assets and the amount of assets that you have. Now, obviously, all of that can help, but at the end of the day, is the guaranteed paychecks that you have coming to you every single month that will dictate success or failure in your retirement life. Remember, it's like climbing the mountain. When you get to the summit, then you're in retirement, and then you're going to start coming down on the other side of the mountain through your retirement life. And retirement is about distribution rate. It's no longer about the accumulation rate. So having guaranteed paychecks in retirement is going to be paramount if you want to succeed along those lines. Now, I'm going to tell you something that you may not like, and that's okay. I'm not here to kiss your ass, and I'm not here to, blow smoke up your nostrils or anything like that. I'm here to save you from yourself, because most of you need a lot of saving. Now, I can help everyone, but I can't save everyone. There are some of you that no one is going to be able to save because you don't have an open mind. And when you don't have an open mind about your finances and your decision-making process, you're going to be making bad decisions all the time because your decisions are going to be made through a microscope as opposed to a telescope. Now, the statement that I'm about to make, although it may not make you feel any better, it is going to be very true. And the statement is as follows. Only fools, let me repeat that, only fools lack annuity planning in their retirement portfolio. If you don't have annuity planning within your retirement portfolio, you're a financial fool. Not only are you a financial fool, but you're someone who's always going to have to be looking through the rearview mirror in order to get from point A to point B. And that's important to understand. And the reason why you need annuities as part of your retirement portfolio is because you need guaranteed cash flow. You need guaranteed paycheck. You need guaranteed income in retirement. I don't care how you call it. It is what it is. And most important, you have to remember that annuity payouts protect against inflation risk due to the excess mortality credits that you will be receiving on every single payout. You see, if you go to any type of financial institution, and I don't care if you have a brokerage account or you have CDs or you have money markets or whatever it is, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, and so forth, anyone can give you principal and interest payments. You can do that yourself. But only one company, only one set of group can actually give you principal, interest, and mortality credit. And mortality credits is the icing on the cake because you're now getting more for less. And because of the fact that you're getting more for less, it's actually helping you protect yourself and your family from the risk of inflation because you're staying ahead of the game. And only an insurance company can do that through annuity credit. So if you don't have annuities as part of your retirement portfolio, then you are a fool not only to yourself, but also to your finances and most important, to your family. Now, another question I often get is, well, Bert, if I decide to make annuities an integral part of my retirement portfolio, what percentage of my portfolio should have some annuity accounts in them? Well, the answer is it depends. Because annuity portfolio needs are dependent on age, risk tolerance, amount of savings that you may have, standard of living needs, and medical concerns that you may have not only for yourself but also for your family. But just to take a rule of thumb off the table, and I don't like to use rule of thumbs because when I do a tactical retirement blueprint, I do have the ability to get deeper and into each and every client because every person is different and their families are different. But a rule of thumb dictates that if you take your age from 100, that's the amount that you should have in some kind of an annuity portfolio that will provide for guaranteed cash flow and guaranteed paychecks in retirement. So if you're 60 years of age, 60% of your portfolio should be in annuities. If you're 70 years of age, then it should be 70% and everything in between. So that's important to note. Now, there are different types of annuities that you can purchase. Usually for a lot of my clients, because of the type of risk tolerance that they're willing to take and their ages and what it is that they want to accomplish for themselves and their lives, I normally recommend immediate annuities and fixed index annuities because they will accentuate an adequate retirement portfolio, and it will provide guaranteed paycheck for life, not only for one spouse, but for both spouses at the same time. And not only that, there's going to protect you from the sequencing of return as well, because index annuities allow you to participate in the upswing of the market while protecting yourself, your assets, and your family from the downswing. So having now what percentage should be immediate, what percentage should be index, once again, it depends on your personal situation. It also depends whether you want to cover, as far as guaranteed paycheck, you want to cover just your fixed expenses, or do you want to cover your fixed and variable expenses as well. So it's all dependent, and based on your individual situation and based on what the tactical blueprint recommends, then we're able to kind of figure out not only what percentage of your portfolio should be in annuities, but also what percentage of those annuities should be immediate annuities or fixed index annuities, depending on the individual circumstance. And usually when I talk to my clients about annuity business, and I talk to them about having a portion of their retirement assets in annuities, I normally ask a question, and this is a question I would ask each and every one of you. If you're married, would you like to have, let's say, your husband and wife, or significant others, or partners in life, or whatever it may be? The question is, would you like to have 2 Social Security paychecks, or would you prefer to have 4? Now, obviously, if you're someone that is sane and have some financial know-how, you're going to say, Bert, I would rather have 4 Social Security benefits than only 2. And the reason why I'm talking about Social Security benefits is that a Social Security benefit is an annuity. It's a form of an annuity. If you have a guaranteed pension, whether you work in the public sector or you work in the private sector, and you have access to a private pension or a public pension, that is an annuity. So the more retirement paychecks that you have coming to you on a guaranteed basis, the better off you're going to be. So if you can have 6 Social Security benefits instead of 2, you would take them every day, any day of the week. If you could have 4 instead of 2, you would do the same thing. So if you use a retirement account properly, and you're able to segment your retirement accounts into annuities and then obviously the rest of the investments that you have as part of your portfolio, you will understand that the more guarantees and the more paychecks you can generate out of those annuities, the better off your life is going to be. Because at the end of the day, if you have it properly structured, then all you have to worry about, like I've said 1,000 times, is to wake up on the green side of the grass. And one of the important things that I want to share with all of you, and this is something that one of my good friends says often, which is Wayne Cotton. He always says that flexibility fosters failure, structure buys you freedom. Flexibility fosters failure, and structure buys you freedom. So if you have a lot of flexibility in your retirement accounts because they're all over the place and you have no idea how much money you have coming in from one month to the next, then that's going to foster failure. It's going to foster the inability for you to have a very successful retirement life. But if you have a structured retirement distribution plan in which you have fixed annuities, immediate annuities, index annuities, you have your stocks, bonds, and mutual fund accounts, and you have your Social Security benefits, and or if you happen to be lucky enough, some kind of a pension benefit, then now structure is going to buy you freedom. It's going to buy you the freedom to live your own life. It's going to buy you the freedom to travel, to enjoy the world, to be able to do things for your family, for your sons, for your daughters, for your grandchildren, things that you would not have been able to do otherwise because of the flexibility that you have previously had, which foster failure concepts and so forth. So it is paramount for you to have a lot of structure in your retirement distribution planning if you want to be very successful when it comes to your retirement life and that of your family. Now, as always, if you want to discuss any of these issues, please feel free to call me. You can reach out at area code 786-766-1042. You can also send me an email at bert@bertsalazar.com. That would be BERT@BERTSALAZAR.com. And always remember, as I do every single week with each and every one of you and each and every one of these podcasts, is my job for all of you is to kind of help you change the way that you see things, because when you change the way that you see things, the things that you see change. So once again, thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time today, and we'll talk again next week. Take care. Bye-bye. Have a great day.